Hey, I just got back from lunch. Did you finish that report yet?
Well, not exactly. Still working on it. I'm not finished just yet. I got a little sidetracked, but I will get them to you first thing this afternoon.
It is first thing this afternoon.
Well, yeah, I understand that, but I mean, I am working on
But
it. I'll have,
what do you mean that the report isn't finished yet?
I'm still in the process of working on it. I've just been a little distracted.
Distracted. Our meeting starts in an hour.
I can have it.
No. What were you doing? Were you listening to another hunting podcast again? I swear, I give the staff in this office the freedom to do whatever they want to do as long as they meet a deadline. That is the first bullet underneath your job description. Pays attention to detail and deadlines. And deadlines. With emphasis. Dude, are you even listening to me right now?
Welcome to episode 90 of the Whitetail Distraction Podcast. My name's Austin, and joining me in the Rack Shack, Charles Hedlund. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing fantastic, buddy. How you been doing?
I've been good, man. You know, it's a beautiful day in Pennsylvania. Nice and humid, just like Florida.
Yeah, well, I chose not to live in Florida for a reason, so I may have to move out of Pennsylvania, too, for these summer months and then come back in the fall.
You feeling like going a little bit further north or what?
I'm thinking, I don't know, maybe Canada. Canada.
Okay,
They
I
got
like it.
big old deer up there, man.
They do. They
Some
do.
slammers.
Saskatchewan.
The Alberta. and then I can be a resident. I can go hunt caribou, moose. You know, I can do all kinds of stuff.
You
up
can
there.
pretend like you're on the show alone, but all alone by yourself.
I can do whatever I wanted. It's probably still a free country up there.
Yeah. Hey.
So, unlike below the border. But anyways, so what's new, man? What's been going on in the outdoors?
Buddy, you know, we had a nice shoot this past weekend.
Yes, we
I
did.
saw a nice deer. I'm excited. People are putting up, trail cam pictures of velvet deer. I got to get cameras out. I don't know about you, but this weekend's looking pretty good for maybe getting a few out there and getting in the woods a little bit. Maybe walk a couple new properties I've been excited about.
Yeah, I definitely want to get some work done this weekend. I know I might be free like Sunday, Monday-ish. I got off work, so I got like 4 cell cams I got to get up. I got at least another 4 or 5 just regular cameras I'd like to get up. I got a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
And I've just been slacking hard, so I need to prep some trees too. I want to do that this year, kind of get some trees prepped. I have a couple really cheap lock-on stands that I bought last year from a guy for like $5 or $10 a piece. I want to hang them up in a couple spots where I want people to know I'm there so they kind of back out because it's a small area.
Yeah.
And I kind of want to hang them almost in the tree that it looks stupid, but I can get up in there and hunt out of it with my saddle and then just use that as my platform to kind of help me out too.
Okay. That's an interesting concept. I like where you're going with it.
Yeah.
Just
It was, I mean, I did it a couple times last year. I hunted out of lock-ons with my saddle equipment. And then, when I wanted to, I just turned around and sat down on the seat for a little bit. Not for very long because it's still uncomfortable, man. I've never been comfortable in like a lock-on stand, especially small ones.
See, that's where I do disagree. I do still really enjoy a lock-on. I still have mine for a reason. I know you got rid of yours.
Yeah, screw that thing.
I hunted out of that last year, man. We have been saddle hunting, but it brings me right back, and I do really appreciate a good lock-on.
Yeah, in the right scenario, maybe, but I don't know. I don't think I can go back to it. Climber, you might be able to talk me to get back into my climber. Now, that's comfort, my friend.
Yeah.
But
I'm a fan myself. I'm a little sketched out anymore.
My whole thought process is, too, like, if you have kind of those 2 set spots where I don't plan on going in there but maybe once a year and hitting it, and it's somewhere where you got to get in super quiet and, get up a tree and get into a stand like right now. Why not have a stand there and then be able to hunt out of it as a platform? You know what I mean? So
I'm right there with you, buddy.
Instead of potentially fumbling with something or making a mistake, I think that would be easiest just to climb up and step up into a stand that you already have prepped. And your lanes are good. You don't have to guess with how high, because I do a lot of blind hanging hunts in the mornings.
Yeah.
And daylight comes, you just don't know what you got until you're there.
That's where I'm at, buddy. And it's been magical a few times. It's been a little underwhelming several.
Yeah.
But, that's kind of my forte, bud.
Yeah, it's kind of my thing now, too.
Yeah, I love it.
So,
dude,
that's the plan.
We're talking whitetails right now, and it's got me pretty excited. We're out of turkey season. We're getting into whitetails again. We got pretty good guests for whitetails tonight. What do you think?
We sure do. I mean, boy, oh boy, do we ever. We have Curt Geier from the Working Class Bowhunter on tonight.
What?
Dude, are you kidding me?
No, that's a bucket list guy for us, man.
It really is. One more thing before we get him on. We do got to talk about our partners.
We do, man. Number one, right off the bat, Curt Geier.
Curt Geier. CurtGeier.com.
CurtGeier.com, man. They got some unbelievable sales going on right now. If you guys want to get something on the cheap, just to get yourself started, they got 60% off on, pattern that they're just kind of phasing out a little bit. They have their new patterns, the Summit and the Solus. Go check those out as well. But if you want to just dip your toes in the water for a little bit of Curt Geier, hook yourself up.
Yeah. I really like also that they send pretty awesome emails. You know how you're in like the email subscriptions for most people?
Yeah.
And the emails are just like naggy and annoying. They send good. They sometimes send like articles, hunting articles.
They sent an article today, man.
Yeah, I saw that. Lock Wheeler was the cover art of the email that they sent out today, a newsletter. So they do have a really good thing going. Go check them out, CurtGeier.com.
Use our code WDP20 for 20% off your first purchase.
Boom. Next.
Veteran Innovative Products.
Man, VIP.
The combat vet and the veteran, man, I always go back to it. They're just unbelievable, and they're just bad to the bone, man. I can't believe how good the pastors are on them, the blood trails, the destruction, man.
Yeah.
If you're an American and you like veterans, who doesn't like veterans? Communists don't, but we're not a communist podcast. Veterans are unbelievable. Go get yourself some. Check out the Combat Vet. They are freaking ridiculous.
Come in 100 grain, 125 grain, and 175 grain. Do not be mistaken. They do come in 175 as well. So if you're trying to build a nice heavy FOC arrow, that's a place to start.
If you want to shoot a Tyrannosaurus Rex behind your neighbor's fridge.
They're coming out with like 200 and 300s, I think.
Unreal. Awesome.
For like, your traditional archers, those heavy ones really work out too. And it's amazing to think that a hybrid of, a fixed and mechanical can work for traditional archery, but it does.
It does. I like it, man.
Last but not least, I should be picking up my new canoe here in the coming days.
Sweet, man. I'm excited for you.
So am I. I've not gotten my confirmation email yet, but, my suggested or estimated ship date was today.
Sweet.
So it should be on its way to
Conneaut
Lake.
Yeah. Very cool,
there.
Man. I'm excited, guys. If you guys are looking for unreal kayaks, go check out New Canoe. Even if you're just looking to get into kayaks, New Canoe is a great place to start. Unreal boats. Go check them out. They are built to last. They are built to be stable. They are unbreakable, guys. I'm telling you, they are wonderful.
Yeah, you can waste a bunch of money and buy a bunch and keep upgrading because you're not comfortable in them. Mm-hmm. Or you can go right off the bat, buy a new canoe, have it for the rest of your life, and be extremely happy with it.
Yeah, right there, man.
Yeah, that's about it then. I think that's it, huh, buddy?
Yeah, man. Let's get Curt on the phone.
Let's do it. I'm excited. All right, guys, we are back with, as promised, the guest of our podcast thus far, top notch, Curt Geier, episode 90. I'm freaking stoked. Curt, what's going on, man?
Hey, guys, thanks for having me. Hey, how come you didn't invite me for episode 100? I'm 90.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's a bummer, bud.
That is a great burn.
I'm kidding. I appreciate you guys having me. I had to do that right off the rip,
Yeah, absolutely, dude. You have to set the tone. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
I was thinking about that today. I'm like, man, episode 90, that's kind of a milestone episode, but it's definitely not 100. We better put Curt on this one.
Perfect. Like second place milestone. It's a lot of episodes. 90. You guys are cranking them out.
Yeah, we're doing okay. We started this thing a long time ago back, just kind of came from the roots of really listening to your podcast and a couple other ones. But I was telling Austin in the intro of this, man, I went back to episode 3 because you deleted 1 and 2. And I literally just listened to every single one of them. And I didn't listen to anything else except for yours. And it's kind of like watching like an HBO series when there's already 5 seasons out. It's so much more enjoyable when you don't have to wait a week between each episode. You can just like binge watch or binge listen. So it was actually pretty cool. I think I caught up like 200 episodes in maybe a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I appreciate you doing that. I don't know why the hell you did that, but I appreciate it.
Well, let me explain to you, Kurt. I was in taxes at the time, working an accounting job, working 12-hour days where all I would do is just throw my earphones in and just do taxes all day. So why not listen to hunting podcast while I have to do some other super wealthy person's taxes?
Okay, that's fair. You listen to idiots all the time while doing smart work for other wealthy, smarter people than who you're listening to. So it's probably just a feel-good thing, like a self-help thing a little bit, I bet.
Yeah, I had to bring myself back to earth a little bit and remember, this isn't me. But
realize how bad you could have it if you were us.
Exactly. Yeah, something to aspire
That makes perfect sense now.
But that was it, man. That's where it all started, where it all began for us. And it basically just bred from 2 guys that met each other through hunting, through mutual friends, and then became hunting buddies. And we both enjoyed podcasts. So why not start a podcast, right? Talk about hunting.
That's great, man. I think everybody should. If you're thinking about it, try it. Why not? And if it doesn't go anywhere, then it doesn't go anywhere. You're doing it for fun.
Yeah, totally, man. Totally. I got to throw in a little bit of a brag just real quick. I want to touch on this. I have heard episode 1 and 2.
Son of a bitch.
So, I don't think I didn't actually delete those episodes. I think I just unclicked them from going to certain places. So if you check certain destinations where they're published, you'll find them.
Now I got to go back and find them.
Yeah, there's somewhere. I couldn't tell you. I'll put them. I mean, I don't have anything. I'm not embarrassed by them because they were our first couple, but we didn't know how to record then. So those first 4 episodes are my voice is on the left. Like if you're listening in a truck, my voice is in your left door speaker and Steve's on your right door speaker. So
that's awesome.
It's like this weird, you're caught between this legitimate back and forth, which, so it was one of those things I was like, oh, that's annoying. And that's the main reason why I took them out.
Built-in surround sound. I don't know why that's a problem.
I'll get them back up just for you guys.
Yeah, I can't say that I've listened to all the episodes if I don't hear 1 and 2. Although I do believe there was a time in your podcast where you were going to repost one of the episodes within the episode, but I don't know if that ever happened. I don't remember.
I did do that, and I don't remember which episode it was. Yeah. It might have been I think it was one of our milestone episodes, 300 maybe.
Yep. That sounds about right.
Somewhere in there, I think.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're talking about working class bow hunter. I don't know if there's anyone out there that's listening to our podcast and found us and you don't know who working class bow hunter is. I demand you to immediately go over and download them, subscribe. I mean, what the hell are you waiting for? But you guys you just posted 456 episode. You've been doing this for 6 years. Dude, I want you to get into the beginning of it all, kind of your intro of where it all started, where you started in the outdoors, kind of touch on go take us all the way back to babyface Kurt. I saw your prom pictures, by the way, I believe they were. Take us back to that babyface Kurt, if you don't mind.
Yeah, well, I appreciate the kind words and the plug. But yeah, basically, I guess in hunting in general, I've always kind of been into hunting. Got into hunting when I was young, and then I was just such a fan of hunting shows growing up, like Outdoor Channel. Then I started collecting monster buck videos and Real Tree Road Trips and all the jury stuff, and just got real. I mean, you've been to the studio, you've seen my collection.
The DVD collection is impressive.
Yeah, I'm legitimately a fan of the hunting industry, even though it may not seem like I am sometimes on some episodes because of what we call out and stuff, but that's just because I want to keep people honest as possible. But anyway, I've always just been a hardcore fan of outdoor media. And then in turn, a lot of people, that made me want to film hunts and get into the industry as I could. So I became a Pope and Young measure. I was trying to just do anything I could to make hunting more a part of my life because I loved it so much. And I thought that was a way to make hunting more a part of your life, is to try and be in the industry, if you will. And then, which I didn't have a game plan on, I'm going to do this and then become a podcaster, because nobody was even thinking about podcasting at the time.
Right.
This is I was 12, 13, 14, like that, that young. And basically my dad and I fooled around with filming and all that. And then I got in and did a couple small like internet hunting show things. And I was listening actually to a couple podcasts back then before really anyone even knew what they were. I was listening to Rogan when he first started doing it in his house, and like way back, way back. And I was like, man, that'd be cool. That's awesome. That'd be cool to have a hunting podcast. And I looked a bunch up, and there was maybe just a handful at the time. And I was like, man, that'd be kind of cool to start one. And I kind of just sat on the idea for like a year, and then when I actually used Twitter, I said something about maybe thinking about starting a hunting podcast. And Steve was on a comedy podcast at the time, and he was like, hey, he followed me through some internet other show thing I did. And he's like, hey, come in and sit in on the comedy podcast and see if you like it. And so I thought it was kind of cool. So I hawed around, waited through season, because I wasn't going to start one middle of deer season because I'm trying to kill a deer. And Steve bothered me about it. He's like, hey, I'll be your co-host, blah, blah, blah. Little did I know he didn't know anything about podcasting. He was just on one. But we ended up getting gear and started recording after season. In March is when we launched our first episode of 2015. So in there, it just kind of like piled in and kind of just kept going from there. Like we just stayed consistent, and it kind of just turned into more and more as we went along. And so that's kind of the generic, like rough overview of how like I got into start a podcast, and it's a ton of fun. So we just kept rocking it. But yeah, I'm actually just a fan of the outdoor industry in general. You know what I mean? So
yeah, we're just fans of podcasts, man.
Pretty much.
It's different, like now for a lot of people, like for me back in the day, like watching the Realtree boys or the Primos boys or the Juries or whatever, that's still there. But now a lot of kids growing up, or just people learning to hunt or getting into it, or just people who consume outdoor media, podcast is now a major part of that like media circle that people are consuming. Whereas when we first started podcasting, it was not. And it was, I found myself constantly explaining to people what a podcast even was when we had one, even 2 years in, even 3 years in. Like the last 2 years, it's just gotten to the point when now when we go to a trade show and we have our booth, it used to be people look up at our backdrop and be like, what the fuck's a podcast? Yeah. And then I'd be like, you got an iPhone? Pull up that purple app. This is what it is. Oh, shit, I didn't even know I had that. And now the last 2 years, it's completely different.
We went to a small local trade show last year, I believe it was, and that's exactly what the reaction was. They'd see our banner and they'd be like, what's a podcast?
Yeah,
it's hilarious, man. And I imagine he's even more so in little towns like in Illinois and Iowa and some of your local, when you go to like the Iowa Deer Classic. I'm sure there's some really, really good down-to-earth people that still carry flip phones.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's a lot of the older generation. Like we're still explaining it, but I think now, I mean, honestly, thanks to Joe Rogan, now it's more of the norm. People get what it is. But then I found like we just bought a building, built a new studio and all that here in New Windsor, Illinois. And I find myself now re-explaining. Now the question is not more what is a podcast? It's like, well, what do you do? Like they don't think like just a podcast can buy a building and, you know what I mean, needs the space.
Absolutely.
So then I have to like go through and explain everything. So, I mean, it's cool, right? It's a cool thing to have to explain, but it's just funny. A lot of people don't understand what goes into it. So
yeah, no, I'm right there with you, man. So speaking of the podcast, man, how do you keep a podcast going for 6 years? 450 plus episodes, keeping content fresh, man. Where's it coming from?
Honestly, man, I think you just have to be passionate about it.
Absolutely.
And I think you have to do it the way you want to do it, And then if people like it, then that's cool. That's a bonus. But you have to be passionate about whatever you're talking about, and you got to just do what you like, really.
Yeah.
That's the two. I don't really know how else to break that down, because we are passionate about it. But also, a lot of podcasts you listen to now in the hunting industry are, I think, guys, tips and tactics is good, and it is fun for listeners to listen to, and it's, typically everyone friendly. rated E
Yeah.
or whatever the hell. And I think that's video games. But I mean, a lot of them go for that, and that's great. Like, they will probably do better if they can make that entertaining. But in my opinion, this is what I think or how I view it. I think when you do that, then it becomes hard to crank out, 500 episodes and do it for 6 years, because you're so worried about being Mr. Educator, to where after 200 episodes of that, it becomes like taking medicine.
Right.
Yeah, what's left to talk about, but it also becomes like taking medicine to a listener. It's like, man, how many times are you going to tell me bed to feed, and like, and there's so many people. I'm not like really calling anybody out. I'm just speaking generically.
Right.
There's so many people in the podcast game that are trying to be this knowledgeable, educating guy or gal or whatever it is, but then don't have the results to back up what they talk about on their show, and that's a tough look, because why should anybody listen to you?
Yeah,
So-
I'm really glad we don't know shit.
Well, it's great that people like to do that, but it's a tough gig to try and stick to if you're falling short on what you're preaching.
Yeah.
But that's also like why a working class bow hunter's angle in the podcast game is we like to have a damn good time and talk to people, and sometimes we have tips and tactics to bring in, but we try to pull it out of our guest as much as possible too, and not only just serve it to you out of the medicine bottle on a spoon over and over again. Like, we try to add some fun conversation around it, because I think if you're laughing and learning at the same time, it's better, and you don't feel like someone's trying to be the know-it-all or shove certain things down your throat, and we like to joke around and cut up and just kick it. So that also keeps it really fresh for us, because it's not this just monotonous, bland podcast every time we get on. Like, and surprisingly, a lot of people don't like that. It's offensive, or we say the F word, and it goes on and on. But fuck them, we have a good time.
Absolutely, man. We've had our fair share of bad reviews too. It happens.
Those people, that's on them. There's plenty of regular radio shows and talk radio. Like Rush Limbaugh's a legend, but I mean, he was actually even a little dicey, so that's probably a bad example. But like any local political radio, that's probably more of them guys' flavor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No, you have a good point there. I know personally I've stopped listening to quite a few of the same type podcasts that you're mentioning, because like you said, you can only regurgitate the same shit over and over again and get the same style of guest over and over again before it's just not entertaining. And in today's world too, with the kids and everybody, like, everyone's attention span's like the same of a gnat, right? Because they've just been getting force fed video games and all these different things. And I grew up on it, same thing. We're basically the same age. We grew up in the video game world and all these other things, but outside of that too, what's kept us grounded is hunting. But you can only hear that shit for so long before it just gets old, and you basically don't even listen to it anymore. You play it in the background and it plays, but you're not really listening. So with yours, I find entertainment, which keeps me engaged in the conversation. So when there is something to be learned, I'm actually obtaining the information and gathering the information, and you're going to learn. I mean, unless you're Steve, you're going to learn something from the guests you guys have had over the last 6 years. I mean, you've had some absolute stud buck killers on your, but you have the freaking juries on speed dial at this point. You know what I mean? Like, that's unreal. So why not?
It is unreal.
Yeah. You guys learn it though. And then you go out and you apply what you've learned, and then you have those circumstances and those experiences to talk about. And that's what I think is pretty cool about the whole thing and what podcasts can do for people.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you saying that, but really, we just have a great time with it, man, and we want to have fun. And if people don't like the way we have fun with our show, that's cool, but
Move along.
It's not for everybody, but for a lot of guys that work their asses off and go to work, and I think they can find enjoyment in it, even if you're really not that hardcore of a hunter. I mean, the goal is, if you're in the car with some buddies that don't hunt and you have our show playing, it's cool if they're kind of like, man, what is this? This is pretty cool, even though I don't hunt. Like, that's like, to me, one of the biggest compliments, because you're bringing just general entertainment value with a niche mixed in it.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. One of the biggest things that probably had me not so much nervous, but, I didn't know am I going to show up and these guys are going to be the same as they are on the podcast? Or, you know what I mean? Or they just podcast entertainment and you show up and they're cliquey? And dude, it's not like that at all. Like the WCB family. I mean, I was in a screaming match with Rachel Bushak, or however you say her name, Biddy Boosh.
Yeah, Biddy Boosh, yeah.
We were, not seriously, but we were arguing about who was from more northwestern PA. And it was absolutely hilarious. Like, I had such a good time cutting it up with all the different people from the WCB crew, and you guys were thankfully exactly how you were portrayed in the podcast. So
that's good to hear.
Yeah. I'm just
funny.
a little mad Steve wasn't at the shoot, you know. I heard he wasn't invited, but he had a burial for his turtle or something.
Yeah, he's still trying to hold it up in witness protection on that one. So
yeah, that's what's going on. That's a shame.
But no, I'm glad you got to come out, man, and kind of like mix it up with everybody and see kind of our little community that we bounce around with here. So
yeah, it's kind of crazy, to be honest. But dude, the shoot was a blast, by the way, an absolute blast. I had fun from minute one, setting up the course, helping out, and meeting all the guys, and boy, was it great, man. That was an absolute blast. The whole shoot was fun, making people. I blew up an arrow on one of the trees, so I'm one of those people, but it was really cool, man.
It honestly, this year, for the whole event, it was like a perfect day. Like from setup to the shoot to the after party, everything. It couldn't have went better. And I feel like that got me back on track, like mentally, especially with like the studio. We finished it up like within 2 weeks after the shoot, like completely. It just kind of rerouted me back on like the working class track that we were on before, you know, I had some changes going on in my life before it kind of derailed for a couple months. So it was like a really good reset button for me. So it was an amazing day.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything went, from my perspective, everything went absolutely amazing. We had a great time. You know, Trev was kind enough to have me stay with him and kind of hold my hand a little bit there, so that was also good. But
great dude, by the way.
Happening right now?
You know, I've mentioned this on a podcast before. We live in the firework capital of the United States, and every time around this time of year, dude, it's nonstop with fireworks and firecrackers and dynamite. Like, this has been all freaking day. So try to record a podcast, and you got to have the windows open because it's 120 in this shack that we got going on. And people,
I thought you guys just lived in the hood or something like that, and there's just a drive-by going on.
Not quite.
Not that far from it, but
hey, no judgment here. I was just hoping for your safety is all.
I couldn't keep focus through that. It was literally just firecracker after firecracker or something like that going off, but whatever.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All good, man.
Yeah.
Not bothering me a bit.
All right, so one of the things I kind of wanted to know, too, with the whole podcast and everything, I mean, like we said, you've been doing this forever. Dude, I'd like you to talk about some of your podcast mentors, and that could be people that you've met through the podcast that, you know, like Dawson Chandler, Ross Bigger.
Like guests and stuff
or
like that?
guests, yeah. I want to know who's kind of molded you in your hunting style over the last 6 years.
That's a really hard one because there's a ton of people that kind of play into like this cocktail of like my mindset and like from general hunting motivation to like hunting industry,
good point,
business motivation kind of all blends in there, you know, like at the point we're at. I mean, yeah, of course, like everybody that I look up to as a hunter, like the Ross Biggers, the Austin Chandlers, guys like that, just straight killers, the Clint Caspers, the Devin Leonard. I mean, you know, it goes on and on. The Mark Juries and the Michael Waddells, the T-Bones, like all those guys that we've got to know over the years, they're definitely like hunting influence on me. But like business, you know, like Chase Rolfson, some of the top like marketing guys, Joe Humphreys, a lot of those guys that are so fun and so cool, but so business smart and successful in the outdoor industry. Like I've learned so much from all those guys that I feel like it's just kind of a neat place to be. I think that's why I love podcasting too, going back, is I get to talk with these guys for the podcast, but they're also my really good friends, you know?
Yeah.
So there's a ton of people, man, that add into that. But and I try to, where I didn't like change friends. I still have lifelong friends, but once we got to know like Ross and Austin and meet some of these guys through the podcast, they were so passionate and so into the same things I was into on the same level that basically the podcast crew and I talked. I'm like, we just need to surround ourselves with good people and kind of cut out these like people, these unmotivated people in the outdoor world. Not that we're not friends with them anymore, but we just surrounded ourselves with people that were passionate about the same things we were passionate about. And then, I mean, you can't go wrong when you do that.
Yeah, that was one of the points that I was going to go back to when we were talking about at the beginning, is that quote where you guys talk about all the time, surround yourself with the people that you want to be like. And I think of that when I think of guys like Johnny Utah and Clint Casper and those guys. I mean, those dudes grind so hard to be where they're at. I mean, getting to talk to Johnny Mulligan at the shoot and, you know, just cut it up from...
Yeah.
Man, he was down to like, you know, the lowest of all lows in his life, and he just bounced back and never stopped fighting, never stopped creating, and he's just an absolute genius when it comes to that kind of stuff too.
Yeah, he's one of those business guys that, you know, learned a lot from. He's always got something going on, something new going on, another business venture over here that he's trying just to see if he can do it or whatever, you know. It's cool when you got good buddies like that go for it, and then it also helps them come in and knock out a kick-ass podcast too.
Yeah. So we've kicked around the name Clint Casper and Devin and some of these other guys, man. I want to transition into something that I thought was really cool a couple years ago when you were on a bear hunt, but man, heading out west as a Midwest guy, I mean, you come from the land of the flat. I now have seen it. You know, the highest elevation I think is 12.
Yeah, it's 12 and a half actually.
12 and a
so
half, yeah,
right.
my bad. That last half step might have been a route. I'm not sure, but so.
Just a rock.
Yeah. You got to jump up on a rock. You can see the entire, like, 26-mile area around you. It's incredible.
Yeah. You can see more corn over the corn.
Yeah. Corn to the horizon. So
Yeah.
How'd you do it, man? How did you first, first, I guess, who got you into Western hunting, and how did you transition to that from a Midwest guy of land of the flat?
So that's also like a multi-layer deal. So I grew up with a guy named Jim Burns. I grew up hunting with a guy named Jim Burns. He was my dad's age, kind of one of my hunting mentors growing up, and he's one of those guys who's been, I mean, to Alaska. He's killed about everything: caribou, Yukon moose, muleys out west, elk. I mean, you name it, he's done it. And I always hear him talk about it. I'm like, man, that'd be cool. And then, like, growing up hunting with my dad, we always talked about wanting to do an elk hunt, wanting to do this type of hunt. Like, hey, we should try. We love whitetail so much, we should try do some Western thing. Well, it feels so out of reach when you don't have anybody that has, because our buddy Jim, he lived quite a ways away. We saw him a couple weeks a year in camp. So we didn't really have anybody close by to kind of like walk us through it or kind of basically break the ice on it. Well, I got to know another great group of guys we got to meet. They're actually our first guests in our brand new studio. They were here this week. The Buckstorm guys, Jeremy and Travis and Austin. Jeremy started reaching out to me. It started out legitimately as a listener of our podcast, and he played a big role in getting me out west and my dad out west. We went on an elk hunt. My dad and I were going to do a over-the-counter Colorado public land elk hunt. And Jeremy's like, well, hey, if you guys want somebody to come with and hang out in camp, I'll come out and maybe teach you the ropes from what I know. And so literally the first time I ever met him in person was on the mountain in Colorado. He met us at the trailhead. And so that had a big play in the push to just realize it is super attainable. It's not as far away as you think it is. It's not as expensive as you think it is. And then, of course, getting to know Clint Casper and have him become one of my best friends over the years, that obviously rolls into wanting to do more Western trips when you're with a guy like Clint all the time. But, I mean, really the Buckstorm boys, Clint Casper, and just kind of like a smorgasbord of people that play into, like, pushing you out west to go. Like Devin Leonard's now playing a big role in getting me out west more. But the Buckstorm guys were the first ones that really were like, dude, just come out here. We'll show you the ropes. So that helps when you got a buddy or a crew of guys willing to, let you cut your teeth on the West, with them. And you have a mentor and someone to kind of like, hold your hand while you're doing it a little bit.
Yeah, man, totally. That's
Yeah.
solid answer, man. And I gotta say, Clint Casper, still one of the best guests we've had on our podcast, period. That guy is so awesome. He loves those solo hunts, and he's getting so crazy into it, like Brian Barney, and going giant freaking mule deer out there. It's just absolutely wild, man.
He is. I would say he's the most Western dude east of the Mississippi.
Definitely.
He's almost short enough to be a Westie.
I know. I was gonna say he's in that Westie. Like you can ride the ride if you're this height. Like he's in the Westie parameter there. But that guy's a maniac. He'll be in. I think he's gonna be in Utah before I go to Wyoming for my mule deer hunt this fall. And him and Devin are gonna meet up with me. Devin's gonna hunt with me. I think the entire time. I think Clint's gonna try and come out for 2-3 days, and then he's either headed home from there, back to Utah, or to Colorado. I can't remember what his plan is. He's always got something going on.
So, dude, you know what? Was your first Western trip then the antelope hunt that you went on?
No, it would have been that elk hunt.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I was talking about when I met the Buckstorm guys. Yeah, and then from there, that was in September. And we actually, the next episode we do with Buckstorm when they were in studio, we kind of recap it a little bit, because that was 2018, September of 2018. We went on that, and a wildfire actually cut our hunt short by 3.5 days. We basically got the hell out of there and tried to find elk in another spot, and we basically had to restart from zero again.
Yeah.
And just never got back into them. Like we were into them. Not saying we would have killed one because you don't know, but we were dialing in and we were feeling good about it. And we were coming out back to the trailhead on our first night in, and I was like, man, it looks like it's gonna thunderstorm. And we get out and we can see the sky a little more clear, and we're like, oh shit, that's smoke. And it just a wildfire rolled in, and basically we're gonna go in, pack in, and do like 3-4 days or work our way through to this northern trailhead. Well, we went in the first night to see like, okay, yes, there is elk in here. We're going to come back in and then start our journey up to the northern trailhead. And we were going to move a truck up there. So we had a vehicle, and basically all those northern trailheads that we were like planning out to maybe get to were all shut down because of the fire. So it pushed everybody that was north of us all down to our one trailhead. So we went from just a couple guys hunting in the area we were in to literally we drove around the mountain. There was, 50 something trucks like the following day because everybody else was pushed out of where they were at. So we're like, okay, we're going to leave and go find elk somewhere else. And then we never just got back into them after that. So,
damn.
But anyway,
Unreal,
that was my first Western experience. And then from in that camp, we planned the antelope hunt in Western South Dakota for the following year. And we did that 2 years in a row.
Okay. So the reason I ask is I hear Clint, talk about a lot on your podcast about starting off with like an antelope hunt, and they're a great like entry level Western hunt to kind of get acclimated to the Western area and stalking animals, because you're just going to see a bunch of them. You're going to get on a lot of stalks and you're going to get a lot of experience. I mean, would you agree with that, or did you, gain something from that elk hunt that helped you in that antelope hunt as well?
I do agree with that 100% that the antelope is a great, I'm going to the West, but I also think it was good for me to get that flavor of the West, so extreme as what Colorado can provide.
Right.
Like how steep it is. And you realize, I've never felt like I had weak ankles until I was in Colorado. And I'm like, damn, dude, I'm like a baby fucking giraffe up here on this mountain, So I feel like the wake up call of the West right off the rip was really good for me. And I think it'd probably be really good for a lot of people, but there's some people that I also think it could shock them a little bit. Like, wow, I can't do this, which sucks because you just got to know what to expect the next time you come out. But I think, if you want to just for a lot of guys, it's the push of, I'm going to a different state in a different area I'm unfamiliar with, and I'm going to spend the gas money, and I got to pack the food, and I got to buy the tag, and I got to, and what, there's so many reasons not to do it. But I think if you like an antelope hunt, go to Nebraska, go to South Dakota, go to Wyoming, go to anywhere where you can get a tag fairly easy over the counter, or basically you apply and you're going to get one, and then maybe build a point or two in another state and draw draw another antelope tag there, maybe a little better unit, and go on public land and chase them around. It's a blast, and I think they're one of the coolest animals.
Yeah, that would be so much fun. We've been talking about it for a couple years now. Just that would be like our entry level trip to the West, is to go chase antelope. I think that'd be a lot of fun, especially with the bow.
It's so much fun because you can get into them in like western Nebraska. That's where Doug, he went. I think one of his first western hunts. That's not really west for a lot of guys, but for the Midwest guys like Illinois and further east where you guys are, that is pretty damn western for us.
Yeah.
And it's western game, that is,
Right, you're getting out of your comfort zone for sure, and in an atmosphere
yeah, it's just
like
different.
That. Yeah, different but fun. I mean, it's something that still is on our radar. We got to do. If I could just quit chasing whitetail and big buck states, then maybe I could do that too.
Yeah. I'm right there with you, man. So out of your Western experience, you've gone elk hunting, you've gone antelope hunting, you've gone bear hunting out west. What would be like your most favorite hunt out there so far? What are you looking forward to? What do you think's most attainable?
And for the record, guys, or anybody that's listening, I don't consider myself to be a Western hunting expert, like by any means.
No, you're still young at it. I'm asking because we're very young at it.
Yeah, that's why we're asking you the entry level shit. People like us
Yeah,
that have
okay.
never done it. That went, I pretty much imagine myself going out there and getting drugged by my feet by a horse or a four wheeler. You know what I mean? Like I'm that guy that just shot.
I hear you.
So that's
I
why
will
we're coming
say-
from your perspective.
Okay, I just didn't want someone listening to be like, I'm gonna look this guy up and be like, this motherfucker ain't been out west. I have, but yeah, I am new, and so yeah, I get what you're getting at here. I just had to clarify for people listening. I got two answers to this. I liked the elk hunt, one because it was like my dad and I were doing our first Western adventure together, and we met the Buckstorm guys in person there, and like just created lifelong friends, and it was over the counter, and it was for an elk hunt expensive, but fairly inexpensive if you think about it, for what it was. But I would say that's up there. And then my other one would be my bear hunt. This year was fun. We didn't kill bears this year, but last year when I went on my bear hunt in Wyoming, and that's just that's an over the counter tag. But to hunt over a bait and stuff, we went with an outfit, Double Diamond Outfitters, and I got introduced to Trey and Liv at Double Diamond through Devin and Clint, and we went 2 years, and we're going back next year, and I'm actually going to be staying in their camp for my mule deer hunt this fall. But that bear hunt is insane because you go in on horseback, and you're hunting color phased black bears out west, and it's just a cool hunt altogether. Like the hunt is cool, but everything around the hunt is just as cool.
Yeah, that's a tough one to beat right there.
Yeah, it's like I didn't kill a bear this last day. It was when did we go? End of May, and I wasn't even bummed a little bit about not killing a bear because you just have so much fun on the horses and in camp, and just the terrain is just amazing to look at in itself, and you just add everything else into it. It just seems like a bonus after that.
Yeah, man, the experience is so good. Are you still freaked out by horses, or what's going on there?
I appreciate you checking in on me. The first time I was, because I had Devin's a wild fucker, man. So he's like cowboying up, let's ride. He's yelling and shit. So I think it had everybody all worked up, including me. And then like they just threw me on a horse and like, all right, we're going in. And I'm like, oh shit. And it jumps a river and I'm like freaking out. So I think it was just super culture shock for me, horses in Illinois I learned those guys call them pasture gnomes. Nobody rides them. They just stand around, and look stupid. It's like, man, let's butcher that thing and have some horse meat, I'm kidding.
Glue.
Yeah. So, this year I went, no, I was good. I really loved the horses. I enjoyed them. I even got the thumbs up from my buddy Trey, and he's the most cowboy person I've ever met, like legitimate cowboy. And he gave me a thumbs up, said, dude, looking good, looking confident. That's what we need. And I loved it this year because I knew what to expect.
I like it.
I'll be honest, you throw me right on a horse, I'm probably going to react the exact same way as you did. Who imagines a horse just jumping over like a creek or the floating aspect, like you're on it and it's floating, free floating across a creek. Like I don't know if I could do that.
I haven't had that happen yet, thankfully, but I'm not saying that it can't happen on any trip you go on out there, you know.
Right.
You just never know. But no, it's fun. Those horses are such an amazing tool, and you got what I think the trick was like finding a horse you feel comfortable with, because they're all different, and they have some great horses out there, and knowing how I am with horses, they got me some really good, like very calm and just relaxed horses that I got. Like I sat there and just like petted one and talked to it like an idiot. Like, hey, listen, I'm your guy. Don't fuck me up on a mountain. Like, let's get your footing right. You're feeling good. I'm feeling good. Don't hurt me.
Yeah,
and then you're good. You know,
gotta
you
grab them up, look them in the eye, and just tell them, you know.
Yeah,
I'm the captain now. Look at me.
Yeah, yeah. Cameroon. You seen that meme?
Yeah.
So stupid. But horses are awesome, man. They're we're gonna use them for the mule deer hunt, and I'm already looking forward to getting back on them.
Yeah. No, I can dig it, man. They're pretty necessary out there when it comes to that backcountry when it's really steep and really crazy like that out in Wyoming.
Yeah, if I lived out west, I would have a couple horses.
Oh, for sure.
I don't have any reason just to pay bills to feed the thing.
I mean, to be honest, I could find a couple uses for horses around here. I mean, our Amish use theirs, and they get so deep into some of the public land, it's unreal. You know,
yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, my sister-in-law, she grew up with horses. She's got a ton of them. Maybe I'll just borrow one for an entire season and use it to just get super deep back.
Yeah.
Use it as cover scent too.
You do that.
just they tell you to step in the horse shit, right? So just jump in the horse shit, like have it shit on me or something, and then walk in the woods. Where am I going with this? I don't know.
All right. Well, that was
learning. See, we can go back. You can do like an episodal series on hunting out east with a horse on public land, and that'll be your guys' niche. It's like you guys are the horse dudes out east.
Yeah, fire up the YouTube channel. Let's go.
Yeah, let's get it. Yeah.
Here's how you get on a horse. Here's a pack dump on what I put on my horse.
Oh well, I don't know. I know we are a record into like 42 minutes in this episode, but Curt, I do have to admit to something. We are saddle hunters. I don't know if we said that yet, and it's, you know, something that really has to get out. So like horses and saddles.
There it is. There it is.
There's our niche.
It's one and the same. I love that people think that I hate saddle hunting, man, and I don't. I really don't. But we sarcastically joked about it for like a period of time. Like we just went through like a chunk of episodes where we just bagged on really everybody because it was like this new trend. Like we always joked about, like, oh yeah, look at everybody with their ropes and carabiners. But no, like we do not hate saddle hunters, for the record. Like Chandler's killed some good bucks. He has the first ever tethered 10 first place coin.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we actually hold that within our crew. Like the tethered guys are awesome. No, I think saddle hunting's badass, but I think I'm so stuck in my traditional hang on mobile hunting ways that's the only reason why I don't use one.
Yeah.
Now,
I was going more
I could use one this year.
Yeah, well, I know you have one, so you probably should at least give it a try. Like, you know, like you said, it's always another weapon in your arsenal that you could use potentially. But I was going more of the angle like saddle hunters are the vegans of hunting, and we've gone 42 minutes without telling you we saddle hunted. So I had to get that out there.
That is pretty good, because now saying that I don't hate saddle hunters, I don't hate saddle hunting. That usually is the case. Yes, you guys are like the saddle hunters are the vegans of the hunting community, the alphabet people of the hunting community, because you typically know about it before you even get to introducing who you are. You know what I mean? But you know, it definitely, it's a valuable tool. The lighter, the better, I think. Yeah. But it's just one of those things. I haven't done it enough to make it part of my like regimen. Now, I'm not saying that it can't happen. Like Tethered's got some stuff out now that I'm eyeballing like pretty hard, you know. Mm-hmm. Some of the sticks they're coming out with. I'm like, I usually stick to my light hang-ons, and I like some of the saddle setup sticks and climbing systems get me, you know, that perks my interest a lot more than the actual like saddle platforms and the actual saddles itself.
Yeah, that's the beautiful thing about it. It's evolved so much that you can take the same stuff and apply it to a hang-on stand, you know, and still be lighter and more efficient in your climbing methods. That's what I like about it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I adopted like the Ropeman 1 or whatever the hell it is, or Ropeman 2. I use one of those when I hang-ons, and I keep that one. I made my own lineman's rope, and I use that as my lineman when I'm climbing, and then when I get in, it becomes like my tree tether or safety strap once I'm in there.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I'll hunt out anything if the application calls for it. You know, like if there's a spot where I'm like, shit, I'm gonna break out the saddle and mess with that a little more than I will. But some of the shot angles and stuff, honestly, is what turns me off on it, because I just know what can go wrong, just if things aren't perfect.
Yep.
And that's just me. You know, I know there's a lot of guys who are like, well, you got to do this, and that. Yeah, I get that. That's cool. But I'll stick to what works for me.
Yeah, man.
So
yeah. Then there's practice with everything.
No hate, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to make like sarcastic jokes. The
Absolutely.
Same way
It's worth
some
it.
of the saddle hunter guys are going to make jokes about like guys lugging in climbers and heavy hang-ons and full-length sticks and all that. You know, it's
Oh yeah,
whatever.
man. Listen, I gotta be honest. I'm a little sad sometimes when I don't take my climber, because I used to nap in that bad boy pretty hard.
Real hard.
Yeah, it's like the tree lounger, man.
Man, yeah, man.
I found one of those one year. I was out rabbit hunting. I'm like, what the hell is that thing? Sure enough, I told my dad about it. Oh, yeah, that's the tree lounger. I'm like, how the hell do you know what that is, first off?
It's a classic.
It's solid, man. It's solid.
Oh, man. Good stuff. We got into this stuff, and we do enjoy it, but, we really want to get into your season. Last year, you had an amazing year, man. I mean, you were tagged out in October. It had to get a little boring there after not chasing bucks in November for, the first time in a while, I'd imagine.
It was the first year I didn't hunt Illinois in November since I started hunting. But I did hunt Indiana in November a few weekends. But I'll be honest, man, having my daughter at home and I did some Western hunts, and the podcast, of course, stretches you thin with your family because it's just a consistent thing you have to commit to.
Certainly.
I hung out with my family. I kind of took advantage of it. Like, man, the weather's nice. It's like that nice fall weather. Like we can go out, like we can go to the pumpkin patch now and do that stuff. Yeah, and I enjoyed it. And I got away a few weekends here to do some hunting in Indiana. But no, I mean, it was good. I didn't get bored because, I had my daughter and kept busy there. But I know you're saying, like, I did have the itch. I was like,
yeah,
I kept getting like the buck fever itch. Like, man, I got to get in there and try and, because I was still following bucks, and I'm like, man, I got to get in there and figure. And I'm like, oh, I can't.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like turning off that switch that you're just, it's an internal thing, and you're trying to turn it off and you just can't.
Yeah. It's hard to turn it off like November 7th.
Right. Right.
And you're like, and I'm talking, we're in here recording podcasts and stuff. I'm like, and not that I'm ungrateful for what I killed. I'm definitely super thankful for that. But it's just that for however how long in my life, when it's that time of year, it's like there's that certain vibe in the air. You're just like, your brain's going like, I want to get in there. And I'm still, I got my cell cams are going off, and it smells like sweet and curry. And I'm like, fuck, dude, I just want to go hunting. I don't care. And so Indiana did scratch that itch a little bit, and I could have shot an old brute we named Whiskey Dick, but he literally was this old brute buck. Every time was broke off right at the beam. Like literally, he was just main beams.
Son of a bitch.
That's killer, dude.
That's that buck that just fights every other big buck on the property and runs them all off. He's just an asshole and needs to go.
He just looks sad. Like
he's just droopy.
He walked through one day. This is no bullshit. He walked through one day, and I'm like, there's Whiskey Dick. Here he comes. Like 15 yards. And where he walked, it was like one of those crisp November mornings where he walked, because he drug his feet so much where the leaves were kicked up, you could see his trail. And then for like the next 2 times I hunted that spot over like the next 2 weekends, you could still see his trail there from where he kicked up leaves. Like that's how lazy Whiskey Dick walked. So I think he was just like an old dog, he's just tired. I should have shot him, man, did him a favor, but I couldn't.
Yeah. No, I get it, man. I do.
He wasn't suffering, for the record. Yeah, I think he's just old as shit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's just ancient and probably never amounted to anything and always breaks everything off because he just beats the shit out of everyone else.
And we talked to the guys over there. I was talking to Joe Humphreys about it, and he's like, dude, he's the problem. Like, he's the reason why there's no other deer, using the areas, because Whiskey Dick's like a bully. Like, he's pushing these other deer out. So I probably would do the herd good for me to have shot him, especially having 2 bucks in Illinois. I should have just capped it off with that, but I don't know what it was. I just had to let him live,
Yeah, man. I'm right there with you.
A call buck. You would have got some shit for shooting a call buck, I think.
Maybe.
From your boys. Your close boys.
Well, I will tell you, they were begging me to shoot him.
Really?
They're like, dude, shoot him, man. Like, shoot that thing. And I could have shot him 3 times. And the last time I was like, I got whiskey. I'm messaging our group chat. Whiskey Dick's walking in, and I just couldn't do it.
Yeah. We have a point restriction or antler restriction around here where we live that's 3 up on one side. And this big ass massive 6-point was doing the same thing, just beating up all the other bucks in the area, pushing them out. And we had a giant 12-point on trail camera before the season and a couple really nice bucks like in velvet, and as soon as they broke velvet they were all gone. It was just that giant 6-point and we couldn't do anything about it. You can't kill the guy. Like here you can't even kill him if you want to kill him. I would have gotten a youth hunter in there to go take him out in archery season, which is, I don't have anyone youth wise that can go shoot him in archery.
No.
I would have had to hire a hitman.
Hitman, yeah.
Well, I don't want to get too far into your season. I want people to go over to your podcast and really listen to it. But one thing that I don't want to let you get away with, I got to hear a really good deer story from you, man. What's your favorite buck story? I'm kind of throwing it on you, but what's your favorite buck story of all time?
I like kind of the layout of the buck I shot creepy.
Okay. I'm a fan.
He was just he wasn't like an exceptionally large deer by any means, but just like very cool, very unique. Mm-hmm. When I shot him, he's 155-inch 8 with a split 2 and a split 3. And he's just like really weird looking. He looked like his rack kind of looks sort of melted. Like it's really wavy and just strange. And he's just not a normal looking deer. Like when you see him, you're like, whoa, what's up with that guy? So like the breakdown of it all over the years, I kind of just cut through it. He almost basically ran me over when he would have been a 3.5-year-old. And I thought something was wrong with him because of the way he walked up to me within 8 feet. And he's like staring at me. I'm on the ground. He's on the trail and I have my bow and I'm like, all right, that's close enough. And I kind of shoo him off. And this was like center of the rut, So I think I'm like, he's either something's wrong with him, like some sort of disease, or he's got some mental issue, or he's just that ruddy. I couldn't figure it out because he looked weird. His rack was weird looking. He had this weird look. His eyes looked like all black, kind of hard to explain. And then his hair, like his whole face was like white out. It was weird.
Interesting.
And I had a bunch of trail cam pictures of him the following year, and he blew up. I mean, when I say blow up, it wasn't like he went from a 130 to a 180. Like this buck at 3.5 was, I bet you he would have went maybe 100 inches. But his rack was so distinct in the characteristics he had, and like just his main beam shape, or how his tines squiggled off of his main beam. Like it was no doubt it was the same deer, but he went from like 100 inches to like 135-inch 8-pointer the next year. So put on a minimum of 35 inches. I had a bunch of trail cam pictures of him, but never saw him in person. And then I found his shed one side during shed season. Well, the next year would have been the year I killed him. I'm getting pictures of him again. I get same characteristics, but he's from like a 135-inch 8-pointer to now I was calling him a 150 plus 8-pointer with a split 2 and a split 3. And I thought he could push 160. And I didn't see him, and I have a ton of trail cam pictures of him, cannot figure this deer out. It's just when I'm like, what the hell is he doing? I'm trying to break him down. Where's he living? What's going on? Can't figure him out. I see him on the hoof the first time on Black Friday. So that is, for people that don't live in Illinois, our first firearm season has already passed, and everything gets beat to death. So you expect to see a lot less after that first firearm season. So it's always the weekend before and the weekend after Thanksgiving. I'm hunting the morning of Black Friday. I look down, I look up, and out in the field, Creepy's standing with like 5 does. And I saw which way he came from, and then it clicked from there. I'm like, oh my God, that's the pocket he's living in. I've been overlooking it for a year and a half.
Oh, man.
And basically what happened was, so that was Black Friday. The following weekend, which would be second firearm season in Illinois, if you have a firearm tag for that county, you wear blaze orange and follow the firearm rules, you can use a bow now in Illinois. So I went out with my bow, did a hanging hunt. So people are going to call bullshit on this. I swear I had COVID then. So this would have been mid-December of 2019.
Yeah, we know what you're talking about.
Yeah, you were super sick on the podcast and stuff too, like super sick for a long time.
Yep. So that year I killed my first buck in Illinois, like November 8th or 9th or something like that. And I was sick. Like I had a cough drop in my mouth and I was like, my lungs were wheezy. And I remember, the only reason why I remember that is because I remember going, I have a cough drop in my mouth, and you know how those smell, like they're very strong. And I'm like, there's no way I'm going to get away with this. And I killed a buck, and, it worked out. And I had the cough and all that. And this is over a month later, and I still feel like shit. And I remember I got up, took, I can never remember the cold medicine. So it gives you a bunch of energy. It's like cold and flu.
Like
anyway, I did that. Not Dayquil. It's
Theraflu?
Whatever it is.
Whatever it is.
Crack wires
cocaine?
you up. Yeah, it might have been with cocaine. But no, it's like a common. Was it Sudafed? Does that sound right? It kind of like wires you up so you feel good enough to move around.
Yeah, probably.
I did that. Whatever it was, could have been, Colombian Bam Bam, whatever.
Yeah.
And then I drank like a pot of coffee just to get the energy to go out and do a hanging hunt. I'm expecting to see Creepy down in this pocket, see a bunch of does bedded, and then boom, here pops up Creepy, bedded with some does, nudging around some does, and it's like December 12th, roughly. And for here, I can hear the guns shooting in the background.
It's probably guns, could be fireworks. Nobody knows. That's a fun game we play. But go ahead.
I like guns or fireworks, dead or alive. So. Creepy's with these does, nudging these does, moving away, and I'm like, what the hell? All right, he's gone. For whatever reason, bails on these does, turns around and walks at me 100 yards with the wind to his back, and I shoot him at 12 yards.
Unreal, man. Jeez.
And it was a deer that had just, when I saw him on Black Friday, I didn't mention that he came to 30 yards, and I drew back, and he kind of spotted me and busted off, so I was like, oh, I'll never see him again, But yeah, that's the power of being mobile.
Yeah, man.
Moved in and shot him at 12 yards. And what was cool about this, though, everybody knew about Creepy, in my circle. We actually, the previous year, Creepy's trail cam photo was in a cover art of our podcast. And, yeah, so I called my wife, and I'm like, Creepy's dead. And, she knew, oh, Creepy, you know what I mean? She was super familiar with the buck and all that. So the story and the build-up, that was the first time I really had a significant build up to tracking a deer down and targeting one buck and killing them successfully. Yeah. So that's one of my favorite deer stories for my hunting.
Yeah, the added up history from years and years of following this deer, a couple years of following this deer and watching them get bigger and going from this stupid ass 100-inch creepy looking thing. Well, there you go. I said it. Goofy ass looking thing, almost running you over. And
if I show you guys pictures of Creepy, the video where I have it on video actually, of where he walks up to me. Cause I'm Snapchatting him. I was like, this thing ain't going to walk up to me. And he walked right up into my face. And when I show you that, and then I show you the picture of me with him, you will not even you'll be like, yeah, it's the same deer. I can tell because of the characteristics, but you'll be like, how is that possible?
Yeah.
I'll send you guys some screenshots.
Yeah,
and you can
for
do
sure.
with them.
Yeah, for sure. That'd be funny. I was hoping you'd pick that story. I figured you kind of would, because, like you said, that's that one buck that you had the history with. That's the buck that you have the storyline, and then, I mean, and really, he's a super cool buck. Like, the characteristics of his antlers are unlike a lot of things that you'd ever seen before. You know, just with like the bends and the like crookedness to him. It is really cool.
He's real weird. Like I think it's his left brow is actually, like, if you look at him straight on, his brow sweeps backwards. So when you look at him straight on from like ground level, you don't really understand how long the brow is, because of, like, you see it and then it curves back. It's hard to explain. It's really weird, but he's just weird altogether, man. You got to just see him in person. But like real white face, real white like a mule deer. That I was surprised. I was like a lot of comments when I posted that picture of him, and I have a bunch of recovery videos. And everyone's like, "Where'd you shoot that thing?" And like, do mule deer live close to there? Like, is that a hybrid? Huh. That's what a lot of people thought, which I never thought of that before. But
it is kind of funny, man. If you see it, I think it's one of your profile pictures. If you look at that deer, it really does look like a mule deer from like a glance. You're like, oh man, no, and then you look at it, no, it's a whitetail.
Especially with the splits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big time.
If one of you guys have your phone ready, if you go to like our working class Bowhunter Instagram and you go to like our reels and you scroll down, it's like one of our first reels. I have the video of like me sitting next to him like during the recovery, and I'm like moving his rack around. You can see his face. That really shows like how white or gray his face is. It's very bizarre, but I had him aged, like tooth aged, like pulled the front bottom teeth and sent into a lab, and he was 5.5 when I shot him.
Okay. Yeah, I would have honestly thought that he would be a little bit older than that, but still a great deer.
I did too.
Jamie,
I didn't
look that
know.
up, Jamie.
Jamie.
Oh, we don't have a Jamie. Sorry. I thought we did.
That's what I did. I was unsure about. So I met up with Ross Bigger, and Ross got to see and handle the buck when I recovered him. And I'm like, how old do you think this deer is? He's like 5.5 all day. What? And I'm like, I would think that too, but here's a video of him 2 years ago that would make him 3.5, and look at him there. This last season, the shed I have, he would be 4.5. I was like, it could be. I thought he was 4.5 from what I knew about him. So I was kind of like, well, yeah, it makes sense that he's 5.5, but he could have been 4.5 or 9.5. Like, I wasn't confident. I'm like, man, maybe my stories are really wrong, and this buck's like this way over the hill deer that I didn't know. You just never know with a wild animal like that.
It looks like he has an old oak tree on his head, basically, like how all the branches.
Like
bend.
Honestly, man, yeah.
That's kind of how it looks.
Yeah. Do you have that video pulled up?
Yeah. I'm watching it right now. Jamie got it for me.
Jamie, he's weird, isn't he? Like, he's just different.
Super different. Super different. Yeah, I see the brow. I never caught attention to the brow because the main beams really catch your attention first with the way they kind of wave, and there's like that big lump on the one side, and then you get the split on the G2 and the 3, and each tine has like that crooked feel to it. It's really neat, man. That's an awesome.
Yeah, he's weird.
buck.
I mean, to a lot of guys, he's just an 8-pointer with a couple of splits, but
no,
it doesn't. His character doesn't do justice for what he is when you like just write it down on paper.
Yeah, man,
for sure. Okay, so we're getting up there on time. We don't want to keep you all night. So we're going to go through a couple of these listener questions that actually I just made up by myself today, just so you know.
I like that.
Okay. So, and I sent these to you, so you have some preparation.
I skimmed over them and didn't actually read them. I'll be
perfect.
honest.
So first and foremost, why Ohio is so much better than PA hunting? That's the first one. I don't know the name of the person here, but yeah, they submitted that today.
Well, everybody knows Ohio is the number one big buck whitetail state in all the land. So that would be why. That's the number one. Clint Casper lives there. That's also why.
Good point.
But really, honestly, we joke around about Ohio being like the best and tell everybody to go to Ohio. But, if you can get to Ohio, that's a great option. Definitely better than Illinois and Iowa. If you're correct.
Definitely better. I wouldn't recommend going to Iowa ever.
No. Illinois, we have over-the-counter buck tags, but it's not worth it.
No.
Man, so we live 20 minutes from the Ohio border, so we could literally just like take full advantage of it at any time, and we've hunted there quite a bit. But I actually have hunted Illinois in the past too, and the first year I went out there was 2012, which was like the first year of the real bad EHD. And I actually shot a really nice buck out there. I shot probably a 130, 140 class buck. And long story short, I ended up recovering the deer later that evening. Shot him in the morning, right as a front went through. It rained all night, turned into snow. It was a beautiful morning. He snuck in on me. I got up, shot him 25 yards, hit him high long, let him lay, bumped him, went out, came back in, found him in the evening. Someone had cut his head off and actually stole the rack with my deer. So I was pretty bummed.
No shit.
Yeah. That kind of ruined my entire trip for the first time ever in Illinois. And we saw some really nice deer out there. There was like a 180, I think, running out. Well, 180 is what the park ranger called them. I didn't actually get to see this deer. But, those guys kind of know what they're talking about a little bit, I think. They live with them.
Usually.
Yeah. And that was also the year that 200-inch deer, close to 200-inch deer, were poached off that property. So I went out on a great year. Had a lot of fun. Illinois, dude, I will tell you, Illinois hunting is just the most beautiful scenery. And some of those, like, little runoff bottoms going into the lake that we were hunting just at that time in November is unreal, man. You want to talk about, like you said, watching the videos and of the scenery of what giant buck land looks like. That's what we were at, and I loved it, dude. But yeah, I've been out there a couple times and just missed out on that buck, got it stolen from me. Then the next time I went out, I missed out on another 140. I might have been on my phone. I might have been
Missed your window. Yeah, Illinois is great, isn't it?
So yeah, don't go to Illinois. You're just gonna go and spend a whole lot of money and come back unsuccessful twice if you're me. But I was actually coming off a super high, man. I shot the biggest buck of my life in PA and went to Illinois to try to follow up on it. Might have been playing on my phone, still feeling in the moment, like day 2 of the trip. 140 chases the doe right past me, but
that's a great story. I mean, it can't some of the unfortunate stuff, but that's I mean, that's just part of it, man. That's how it goes. But yeah, I mean, at least you got out and went after it in Illinois. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. We talk about going back, man, but I don't know. I mean, the area that we went to got so hit like horribly with EHD that I don't know if they fully recovered yet. So that's the other problem. But so that's why the whole story and the whole point of this was go to Ohio. That was the whole point of that.
Ohio.
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 OH.
Ohio.
All right. Question 2. Since you didn't read these, this makes it actually kind of fun. We wanted to get your perspective on some PA regulation complaints. So no hunting on Sundays.
Stupid.
Yeah. Dumbest thing ever, right?
Yeah, it's dumb. I wouldn't obey that one.
Check
Ted
your
Nugent
regs.
said that on our podcast. Ted Nugent's like, that's stupid.
I know.
I'd be hunting on Sundays. I'm like, I'm bold. I like it. Okay.
Uncle Ted said
that's
that.
one I can't get behind.
Yeah. All right. This is the big one. This is like the grand finale. Austin, do you want me to read it or you want to read it?
No, I'm gonna let you go for it.
Okay. This is my personal question I submitted. And this is why is Clint Casper the sexiest man alive?
Why is he the sexiest man alive?
Yeah.
Probably just because he kills the biggest bucks.
Do you believe
nothing to do
he's
with
the
his
sexiest man alive?
I wouldn't say the sexiest man alive. Maybe in Ohio. Maybe the sexiest, most Western guy, the east of the Mississippi. You know, but that like brings it down a little bit. It's more of a niche market he's in with that. He's the sexiest, most Western guy east of the Mississippi that does solo mule deer hunts for 190s and almost dies on a mountain.
Unreal, man.
Yeah.
Unreal.
So in his niche, yes, I would say he's probably the most attractive man in that category. If I had to give him a thumbs up or a thumbs down on being attractive, in that case, he would get a thumbs up.
Oh, that was the
Any
weirdest
other
question we've
niche
had.
might not apply.
So wait, does that mean you have another man in mind that would be the sexiest man alive for you?
You know, I've actually never broke that down kind of like a bucket list hunt. I've never been like, yeah, dude, right here, sexiest man alive. For me, not really my thing, but the alphabet people, shout out to you. This is your month still.
It is still their month.
Yeah.
That's why this question is relevant.
A few more hours. Yeah, bless their hearts, For me, I don't know. I don't know who I'd pick on that. If I had to what's that men's magazine where they crown somebody every year the sexiest man of the year?
Sexiest hunter alive. We'll go with that.
I don't know. I don't know who it would be. That's up to your listeners to decide.
Okay. All right. Well,
Listen, I can't give out that crown. You know.
Okay. I thought it'd be like Jeremy Beck, just because if you didn't say him, he'd probably just smash you.
Yeah, he is a Viking.
That is a giant human being. That does, you say deer like pictures don't do it justice. No, dude, that dude, nothing does him justice. He is a giant.
Oh, he's a Viking. Like,
he will literally smash your skull.
Viking.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. He really is. Like his genetic is straight from Viking blood. Good dude to know.
Yeah,
Good
absolutely.
dude to know. And a good place to end it, man.
Yeah.
Curt Geier, I'm sorry about that last question, man. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find you?
Workingclassbowhunter.com. Any podcast app, just type in Working Class Bowhunter, and we're on there.
I appreciate your time, man. Thanks for coming on, brother.
Thanks for having me, guys. It was a blast. I like doing this stuff, so I appreciate you reaching out.
Absolutely, Curt. Thanks, man.